Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. As the leaders of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Quad grouping are meeting in Tokyo, so the meeting started of course on Tuesday, and this is the second in-person summit. There was one in Washington in September last year, which was virtual meeting. What are they talking about? And how is Quad likely to change the geopolitical scene of the world? The Quad, in fact, is a summit of the four leaders, that is Australia, Japan, India, and USA, that seeks to enhance economic issues, economic stability, growth, as well as seeks to ensure that the safety of the Indo-Pacific region is not endangered. But then, why Indo-Pacific? Because the three countries or the four countries are more concerned with the danger posed by China. Is it going to be different from NATO? Quite possibly, because NATO was essentially a military alliance, and it continues to be a military alliance. There is no economy or the goodness of the people involved in that. That's a pure military, defensive and offensive grouping of the nations, which was supposed to be a Warsaw Pact, which is defunct now, which is dead. So what are the major themes that present challenges and opportunities for this group? The first one which comes to my mind is destruction of Europe. Europe is no longer living in its ivory tower. And the Russian invasion of Ukraine has shaken the old world. Not only that, it is reshaping geopolitics across the world. Just imagine, in the Quad itself, out of the four, three countries are openly opposed to Russia. And as a leader of the Western alliance against Russia, USA is now deeply engaged in the war, economically at least, and it has committed $54 billion in the war effort. Now, $54 billion is not something to be sneezed at. As I was saying, that while the three countries of this Quad are bitterly opposed to Russia, the attitude of India is very ambivalent. It has not criticized Russia. It has abstained from all resolutions in Security Council and in General Assembly which were aimed at condemning Russia. The invasion started on February 24. Till today, the nature of US involvement is also going to change, and so have its objectives. But is that going to impact Indian decision? No. And as the US Secretary of State, Blinken said recently, we don't know how the rest of the world will unfold, but we know that the sovereign independent state of Ukraine will be around for a longer period than Vladimir Putin on the scene. Now, this is highly condemnatory. You are comparing a country to an individual. If you had said, you see, if Ukraine continues, and I wish it continues, do you mean to say that the Russia would be gone from the world scene? If that is there, then Blinken is barking up the wrong tree. The reinvigoration of Europe and NATO in the wake of Putin's attack on Ukraine has made new demands on US attentions and resources. And that is prompting questions about the American appetite about the two rivals. And two rivals are Russia and China. And at the same time, this is also bringing into question that inversely impact U.S. commitment to Quad and Indo-Pacific. But yesterday, as President Biden said, that he plans and seeks to have relationship with India, which will be closest ever on the earth. Now that is a dangerous statement. Indians would be very happy. But let me strike a note of caution. Too close relationship with an undependable friend is always harmful. You remember what happened to Shah of Iran? He was very close to USA. He was their spokesman. He was their front man in the Middle East. And yet they did not hesitate to stab him in the back. General Zia was out and out a protege of USA, and he lost his life. Saddam Hussein, when Bush attacked for the First World War, it was told to him that why not remove Saddam? And he said, well, I agree he's son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch. Later on, the same guy was hanged in a public square. So when USA says that we want it to be closest relationship on this earth, I shudder. But then I find that our diplomats are quite capable of tackling the dirty Yankees tricks. So US President, he is responding to the skepticism which people have that would he change his attitude towards Quad or not? And how would US respond if China attacked Taiwan? And he said, we'll attack it militarily. That means the war starts. They are agreed. And he said, yes, it's a commitment we made. We agree with the one China policy. We have signed on it. But the idea that it can be taken by force, just taken by force, is not appropriate. So if peacefully they take over, it will be quiet. And those who fear that the Biden administration may lose focus on China, the real threat to USA has always been China, not Russia. I wrote in my articles that Russia is not a threat to USA at all. Russia can be a threat to Europe. And Russia is not even a threat to Europe. Russia is a threat to the former parts of USSR which it wants to have in its area of influence, not even geographically. So those who fear may be mistaken. And the war in Ukraine has also posed an internal challenge for the Quad. As I said, US, Japan and Australia are unequivocally against Russia. India's position is studied neutrality, calls for territorial sovereignty and integrity, but would not condemn Russia. After all, how can you? You are dependent on Russia. 90% of your defense is based on Russia. So India's separateness on this issue was apparent in the joint statement by Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio, affirming rule-based international order as indivisible threats to international law and free and fair economic order everywhere. Now that's not there. It's neither free nor fair. It is always tilted towards the more influential party. So the greatest immediate challenge to this order is Russia's brutal, unprovoked aggression against Ukraine. That's what Japanese Prime Minister and Biden made a statement. India did not. They did not sign this joint communique, and possibly it is the first time in the history of the world that in a meeting of four countries which are committed to work together, one country says, oh, I accept all the other things, not this one. So that's the first challenge. Second, threat of China. Amazingly, this whole Quad was set up to oppose China. But you would find that in the communique, except for the illegal fishing, they have not been very open about China. China doesn't mind mention in official statements of Quad by name. They say nobody will be permitted to have illegal fishing, nobody will be permitted to invade the market, but they don't name China. And this hesitancy has a telling point. They are afraid because the American economy to a large extent is dependent on China. As a matter of fact, the four nations are joined with a shared interest of creating a strategic balance. And they see China as a subversion of that international order. So every Quad statement has proxy reference to China, not clearly, and its repeated emphasis on rule-based international order, free and open Indo-Pacific. But China has not been shy of branding Quad as an anti-China alliance. So while these four countries are very, very hesitant about naming China as enemy number one, they say no, you are opposed to us. And on Sunday, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called Indo-Pacific strategy of the Quad concocted under the banner of freedom and openness by Washington and keen to gambler with small circles and change China's neighborhood environment. You remember in 2008, the same Quad was there, and Australia pulled out of Quad because it did not want to annoy China. But it has kept economic membership of the group as a mechanism to counter China, but militarization, aggressive foreign policy, push on territorial claims from Ladakh frontier in India to the South Sea in East Asia, has compelled these four countries to come together. So the pandemic and the controversial origin in China has resulted in disruption of the global supply chain, and that brings these four countries together. However, each Quad country views China differently. For USA, it's trade and Taiwan. For Australia, it's only trade until recently when China established a military base in Solomon Islands. Japan and India are closest to China and both face belligerent Chinese claim to the territory. So trade for one, trade and security for the other, and only security for the remaining two. India is the only one with a long, hot land border with China, full of territorial claims, and it had recent encounters even. Not only that, it also faces China's inroads into Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan. So USA knows that New Delhi has to change its earlier defeats on Quad. It hardly wished to provoke Beijing, whose ironclad friendship with Pakistan was a problem. So how to deal with China remains a central question for Quad, because your objectives differ. And when your objectives differ, you cannot have a combined strategy. Let's be very clear, there is not an Asian version of NATO. It's not a military alliance. It's a hodgepodge. It is what we Indians call it khichdi, a mixture. So clamor has grown, including India's strategic committee, for injecting a security component in the grouping. Say war with India would mean that Australia, USA and Japan would come to aid of India. So one of the arguments that this is required to deter China from following friend Putin's example and not attack Taiwan or elsewhere should be made clear. And let's not forget, China has an economy which is 10 times larger than that of Russia. And that when China shivers, the whole world will feel cold and start sniffling and snizzling. The third is non-security initiative. That's the most important. Now, cutting across technology, pharmaceutical infrastructure, they're the key battlegrounds and in contest with China, India especially. The last Quad summit threw up an array of proposals intended to leverage economic, scientific, technological capabilities. And here India has a major chance. COVID vaccine manufacturers, climate change initiatives, Quad infrastructure group, cooperation in cybersecurity, use of satellite. So this sharing would make these countries go forward and is quite useful for India. So ambitious initiative including critical technology with a working group focused on technical standards, 5G diversification, deployment and resilience of technology supply chain. These are important and these should be one of the major components. The new trade policy launched in Tokyo now, which is important, and known as Indo-Pacific Economic Partnership, appears streamlined with these Quad initiatives, and now it has expanded. While the original Quad for the military purpose and the Indo-Pacific was only 4 countries, 13 countries are joining this Indo-Pacific Economic Partnership, and this is an alternative model to the Chinese-dominated Trans-Pacific Partnership which India did not join. So this gives another dimension to it. The trident policies, non-security, China, Russia, added with enhanced Quad of 13-member trade partnership is a game changer. And this is going to give a new dimension to Quad and to global geopolitical scene. This will enhance some capabilities and definitely it will be a red herring for China. So the opportunities are a lot and so are challenges. Now the issue for each country would be to dovetail these challenges and opportunities in a manner to ensure that while the enemy is kept at a distance, the local economy, the local GDP, the local, when I say local I mean the national, they continue to go ahead without in any way endangering the security of these countries. Thank you.